Today we're making Culurgiones, or sort of. I'm not actually sure if it's the pasta shape that's called that or if it's the pasta shape with the filling. But I'm making this with Ground Chorizio, and this dish clocks in at 664 calories, 33 grams of proteins, 70 grams of carbs and 28 grams of fat. And to start off, we are going to add 195 grams of water to a pot, because we're going to heat that up. It doesn't have to be boiling, it's no problem if it is, but we're going to heat that up until it's fairly hot. And to that we're using 400 grams of Semolina flour, and we're going to make pasta with our standard method here, which is creating a well that we're going to pour our water in once it's hot. So we're going to pour our water in, we're going to add some salt as well. So we're going to start off with a fork, and then I like to use a bench scraper to mix everything together a bit more before we get in there with our hands and start kneading. And as always, if your pasta doesn't come together, there are two things you can do. If it's too dry, just rinse your hands in some water and continue kneading, and that's usually all the water you need, or just add a little bit more flour if it's too wet. So we're going to knead this together to a dough, and then we're going to continue kneading for roughly 5 minutes. And we want our pasta dough to rest for a while, so you can do this the night before, or here I rested it for around 2 hours, which turned out fine. So if that's all you have, that's no problem at all, or as I said, you can make it the night before and that's fine as well. We're gonna knead this for roughly 5 minutes, and we're gonna knead it to develop some gluten, and then we're gonna rest it, which also develops the gluten. And once we have a little dough ball, we are going to put that in some plastic wrap, otherwise it will dry out. And I'm gonna put that in the fridge for 2 hours. You can also rest it on a counter, that's fine as well. If you do rest it in the fridge, you need to take it out a bit before you start working it, because if it's too cold, it's just gonna contract. And as I said, this is not the traditional way to make this, but I'm gonna be making this with 500 grams of Ground Chorizio to make our filling. And this is also something you need to do ahead of time, because if your filling doesn't come down in temperature, it's basically gonna melt your pasta dough, so you need to prep this as well. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Ground Chorizio and start browning that. And once we have browned our Ground Chorizio, we're gonna add 1 onion and fry that until it's soft as well. And if you can't find Ground Chorizio in 500 grams packing like I did, then you can just take some sausage and remove the skin and fry that. Or you could use basically any other ground beef thing that you like. To this, we're gonna add 3 cloves of garlic and fry our garlic for 1 to 2 minutes as well. And then we're gonna add 1 deciliter of red wine. And we wanna basically boil off all of our wine, because we don't want our filling to be wet. That's gonna be a problem as well, so we want this fairly dry. So reduce your wine until there's basically nothing left. We're just adding that for the flavor. And then just leave this to cool down. So, here we are, roughly 2 hours later. We're gonna take our pasta dough out from our plastic wrap, and we're gonna cut it in half, because if we leave it exposed to the air for too long, it's gonna dry out. So we're just gonna be using half of this, for now, and then the other half is gonna go back in the plastic wrap until we're ready to use it. And to make our Culurgiones, we are going to be needing a ring mold, and this is roughly 11 centimeters or 4 1/3 inches. And all we need to do now is roll out our pasta dough until it's very thin. And if you have the same problem that I have, that your cutting board just moves around a lot, all you need to do is take a damp cloth and put it underneath, and everything will stick to where it should be. We want to make this fairly thin, and once we're there, we're gonna use our mold here just to cut a bit out. And making these might look difficult, but it's actually not once you realize how it's done. And here you can see the first time I actually tried to make these pig hoofs to the right is my first 3 attempts, and once I actually realized how it's done, it just worked out well. So it took me 3 failed attempts, but I'm gonna try to explain how this is done better. And first thing not to do is not to use too much filling, which I'm doing here. So you don't need 2 spoons here, 1 spoon is enough. So we're gonna use 1 tablespoon of filling. And what we want to do then is pinch the bottom together, and that's going to be our theme for making all of these. So we want to pinch the bottom together, then push that up until you get another fold, and then you want to continue doing that. And as you can see here, this is what happens when you use too much filling. It just becomes very, very difficult to actually put these together. So 1 tablespoon of filling, and our bottom pinch that we started off with is gonna be what we're aiming for while doing all of these. And since that wasn't very clear, we're gonna try this again with a little bit less filling, and I think that's gonna make much more sense. Here's our second run, and as I said, we're going to use 1 tablespoon of filling here. And then we're going to make our bottom pinch here. And what we're going to do is we're going to push that towards the top, so it creates another fold. And we're going to take the fold that we just created and pinch that together with our starting fold. And then we're going to push it up again, and that's going to create another fold on the other side, and we're going to pinch that to the top as well, so we end up with basically our starting position. And that's actually all you need to do. Just pinch it, push it towards the top, and you will create a fold. Pinch that, push it again, you will get a fold on the other side, and just keep going until you reach the end. And if you don't get a fold, you can just help it to get there with your fingers, so it creates a fold if it's not working with you. And once we get to the end, we might have some filling left, and all we need to do then is just empty that out. I like to pinch that together and then twist it, so you make sure that it's actually sealed. It might look difficult and fancy, but it's really easy once you know what you're doing. So last time we're pinching this at the bottom, pushing it upwards to create our fold here, and we're pinching this at the bottom, pushing it upwards to create our crease, and then we're pinching that together to our bottom ones, so we get a new starting pinch. And all you need to do then is push it towards the top and continue folding. So it's actually not difficult at all, but it looks quite fancy. And I think this turned out really well with some ground chorizo. If you want to make it with potatoes and cheese, which is the traditional version, just send me a comment and I can send you a recipe for that as well. And that's it. All we need to do now is boil some water and make our final tomato sauce that I like to eat with this. And to that we're using 800 grams of passed tomatoes, or very finely chopped and ground tomatoes. We're adding some salt, pepper, basil and chili flakes. And for the basil I would aim for half of a tablespoon. And chili flakes depends on how strong you want your dish. All we need to do then is just put that on some heat and reduce our sauce while we are boiling our Culurgiones. And they need to boil for roughly 5 minutes. And once they're done, all you need to do is just remove them from the water, add them to your sauce, mix it all together, and that's it. Not the fanciest plating, but I think it's actually delicious and I hope you try it, and it's a fun pasta shape to make. So, that's it. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoy.